Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic. I was able to witness a panel this past weekend at Geek On in Riverside, California, about the geek industry and how people can enter this industry, about comic books and anime and all sorts of geek topics. So I've taken a couple topics that I thought would be relevant to you, and I've taken those snippets and I'm going to put them here. So this video is about entering the field. So tips for new people, things you need to know, how do you get started writing comic books or getting into comic books. So here are some snippets. I hope you enjoy.
I would say to add, I guess, sort of a different challenge that I feel like a lot of people encounter is, and this I don't think is just in comics, but given the sort of gig economy we live in, most of the indie comic people I know, very few of them only write comics, at least for their day job. Most of them don't mean, even people who are popular, who you would say like, oh, they've got a comic like Image, or maybe they write for DC. Usually you get to a certain point when you get to a level where you can kind of transition into like, well, I can write comics full time, but most people are writing some animation on the side, or they might be writing episodic television if they're lucky. A lot of people in the indie comic book, including Barbra and ourselves, we have day jobs. Like we go to work, a job that is much less interesting, and then we come home and we start the second job, and maintaining that is rough sometimes, because it's not like as much as I think one expects, like, oh, there's going to be a moment where it's just like, oh, now everything's working right. Yeah. It's a slow climb. You just get there inch by inch. You do want to not get bogged down about, like, a lot of people I see, they put one book out and then they're like, oh, I'm just going to push this book and I'm not going to look forward. And everyone that I've ever interacted with who is looking for comics license or creators for another comic, you're gonna, when that moment comes, you're gonna have a payoff so much better if you can be like, well, yeah, I didn't just stop. I was also working forward the entire time. I have this story at this stage. I have this concept over here. I've done this. Make yourself a attractive creator to collaborators and people on licensees, and they will like that. The idea that you are out there creating. You're not a one-trick pony, and you also set yourself up because so many people think, oh, I'm not getting anywhere with any of these books, and then 10 years down the road, someone picks up one of their books, it takes off as a TV show or whatever, and then they go, well, what else do you have? Right. And if you don't have anything, you're in trouble, right. But if you have things from years of building, it helps.
Just to add on to that, we recently just signed a deal with the studio behind Rick and Morty for Godwell. And what helped us is that for the 8 years prior to that, we've been putting out books ourselves, using Amazon, using any little publisher we can. And so when we came to the meeting, we brought almost a decade worth of books. And that was the resume, it spoke for itself. And there were times where those books weren't selling at all, but you kept going. So get your resume together and just bam, there it is.
What I would say is that I think now is the most amazing time to be a creator in the comic book industry, because there are so many opportunities and so many resources for you. It used to be that zines were really popular maybe in the 80s and 90s when there was no platform for online media, there was no internet, it just didn't exist then. But now, even if you have very limited resources, you can still tell your story. You can do just webtoons, you can do Go Comics, you can do anything just by putting your story online. So you don't have to pay for print if you don't have it. You don't have to go to a publisher if one won't accept you. You can do everything on your own, which is absolutely amazing. So you can still tell your story. And digital comics as well are really picking up. Yes, people still love the print version. They can still go to the brick and mortar comic book store and get that if that's the medium that they choose.
I would say for comics, I would say it's sort of the universal thing we've always struggled against. Comics aren't just superheroes, It's still this attitude of that's what comics do. They're only superheroes. They're superhero focused, and we do great superhero comics in the comic book industry. But it's just a medium. It's like saying movies are only about comics or something. Movies can literally be about anything. A stage play can be about anything. Animation can be about anything. you know? And there are so many comics out there. I'm assuming most people have experienced this, but if you haven't, there's so many comics out there that will hit you at the emotional level of every other medium that you have tackled. I have, you know, Sherwood is a universal experience for comic lovers. That experience where you're reading a comic and you get to a certain panel and it knocks you off your feet, the way maybe a novel has before, or a certain scene in a movie or television. And that power is there. This is a storytelling medium, and it can be used for anything. I mean, we have the 3 books March by our Congressman John Lewis just put out that basically tells about his, you know, struggles with the civil rights movement. And it's this amazing, passionate telling of a historical, an important historical moment in American history. And you feel every moment of it, and then you also think about it and go, this is someone's life. Someone lived this, you know? And this is so many people who out there think of just Spider-Man and Batman, which can be just as powerful. They have no idea that a story like this can be told in the comic book medium, or is being told. And so I might think my biggest thing that I want to change, or the misconception, is that this isn't a valid medium the way other mediums are. If you go to certain other countries, like France is particularly a great example, you're going to see the average individual sitting on the subway reading a comic. You're going to see them taking the time to go to a comic store, which is not what you think a comic store is. It's like the equivalent of like I don't even know, it's beyond a Barnes and Noble, you know? It's like walking into like a specialty store for like cinema or something, or records, and there is such a respect for the medium itself and what can be done with it. So I just really hope that we continue to push forward the way that Image has been doing, a lot of other companies, Dark Horse, where they're showing people, there's more than just one kind of genre to this medium.
So thanks for watching, and make sure you check out these other videos for other stuff like this that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching.